Darkness, absolute and total. It was a void so complete, so all-consuming that it felt as if the world itself had ceased to exist. There was no horizon, no glimmer of hope, only the endless, suffocating black pressing in from every direction. Not the gentle dark of night, not the comforting shadow that signals rest, but a suffocating, living blackness pressing in from all sides. It was as if the ocean itself had become a living thing, intent on swallowing me whole, erasing every trace of my existence. One moment I was fighting for breath in the violent sea, battered by waves that seemed to rise up like mountains, each one threatening to pull me under for good. The rain lashed my face, salt stung my eyes, and the roar of the storm drowned out my desperate gasps. The next, I was sliding down a wet, muscular tunnel, the world transforming in an instant. The sensation was alien, slick, constricting, and terrifyingly alive. I was no longer in water, but inside something that moved and pulsed around me. Disbelief and terror overwhelmed me. My mind struggled to process what was happening, to make sense of the impossible. Every instinct screamed that this could not be real, that I must be dreaming, but the pain and fear were all too vivid. My mind screamed, but no sound escaped. My mouth opened in a silent cry, bubbles streaming from my lips, but the crushing darkness swallowed every plea, every hope for rescue. The pressure was immense, threatening to break every bone. It felt as if the very walls of this living tunnel were determined to crush me, to squeeze the life from my body until I was nothing but pulp. Then, a final squeeze, and I tumbled into a cavern of flesh and fluid. The space was vast, yet claustrophobic, the walls glistening with a sickly sheen, the air thick and heavy with moisture. The stench of decay and salt filled the air. It was a foul, choking odor, a mix of rotting meat and brine that burned my nostrils and made my stomach heave. Every breath was a struggle, every inhale a reminder of where I was. My limbs flailed, searching for anything solid. There was nothing, no handhold, no escape, just the endless yielding flesh that gave way beneath my touch, then pressed back, unyielding and cold. I was trapped in a slick, pulsating prison, the walls soft yet impossibly strong. They moved with a slow, relentless rhythm, as if the creature's heartbeat echoed all around me, reminding me that I was deep inside a living nightmare. Panic set in, colder than the storm-tossed ocean I'd just left. My body shook uncontrollably, not from the cold, but from the terror that gripped my soul. I was utterly alone, cut off from the world I knew. My lungs burned for air. My heart hammered so loudly I thought it might burst from my chest. Each breath was a battle, each heartbeat a countdown to oblivion. I tried to scream, but the thick, humid air swallowed every sound. My voice was lost in the oppressive heat, my cries muffled by the living walls that surrounded me. The shark's movements tossed me like a rag doll, its life force vibrating all around me. I could feel its muscles contracting, its body shifting with terrifying power, each motion a reminder of my utter helplessness. My world had shrunk to this dark, stinking chamber. There was no up or down, no sense of time or place, only the endless, suffocating now. I was inside a shark, swallowed whole. The realization hit me again and again, each time more surreal, more horrifying. The absurdity was almost as terrifying as the reality. How could this be happening? How could I, a man who had always respected the sea, become nothing more than a meal for a monster? I was no longer a man, just food, waiting to be consumed. The walls around me pulsed with hunger, the air thick with the promise of dissolution. I could feel the acids beginning to sting my skin, the slow, inevitable process of being digested. The sea had always been my adversary, but I'd never imagined a fate like this. I had faced storms, braved the wildest waves, but nothing had prepared me for this final, inescapable defeat. Now I was its unwilling passenger on a one-way trip to oblivion. There was no fighting, no bargaining, only the slow, relentless journey deeper into darkness as the jaws of despair closed around me, sealing my fate forever. Just days earlier I was home in the quiet hours before sunrise, my hands busy with the familiar ritual of preparing my fishing gear. The world outside was still, painted in the soft blue of dawn, and inside the warmth of my family filled the air. I was surrounded by my family's laughter, the sound echoing through our modest home. My children's playful shouts and my wife's gentle smile made every morning feel like a blessing, even when times were hard. But beneath those smiles, poverty cast a long shadow. Each day, the weight of unpaid bills and empty cupboards pressed down on us, threatening to drown our happiness in worry and fear. The moneylender's threats grew colder with every visit, his words sharp as winter wind. My wife's worry deepened, her eyes searching mine for answers I didn't have. I could feel her fear, silent but heavy, as we clung to each other in the darkness. The sea, vast and unpredictable, was my only hope. Its promise of a good catch was the only thing standing between us and despair. A storm was coming, its dark clouds gathering on the horizon, but I had no choice. The hunger in our home was a fiercer storm than any brewing at sea. Hunger gnawed at us, a constant reminder that time was running out. The empty shelves and hollow eyes of my children haunted me more than any thunder or lightning ever could. The other fishermen called me a fool for even thinking about going out. They shook their heads, warning me of the dangers, but desperation leaves little room for caution. Still, I was willing to gamble my life for my family's future. I looked at their faces in a worn photograph, drawing strength from their smiles as I prepared to leave. I kissed my children as they slept, whispering promises to be careful, a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. My heart ached as I quietly left, hoping they would understand one day. I pushed my battered boat, Al Huda, into the dark water before dawn, the wood creaking beneath my hands. The world was silent except for the distant rumble of thunder. The air was thick and heavy, the sea eerily calm, a deceptive peace before the chaos. Every sense was heightened, every breath a prayer. On the open water I clung to the image of my family, letting their faces guide me through the unknown. Their love was my compass, my anchor in the storm. I was a father first, a fisherman second. Every risk I took was for them, every sacrifice a testament to my love. I would do whatever it took to provide for them, no matter the cost. My resolve was unbreakable, my determination forged by necessity. And so I sailed into the heart of the storm, knowing that my family's future depended on my courage and on the mercy of the sea. The storm exploded without warning. The sky turned a bruised purple, the wind howled like a beast. My boat, once sturdy, became a toy tossed by monstrous waves. Rain lashed down in sheets, blinding me. I fought to keep the boat afloat, hands raw and bleeding, but the sea was relentless. A massive wave rose before me, then crashed down, shattering the Al Huda. I was thrown into the freezing water, clinging to debris. Then I saw it, a massive fin slicing through the waves. The shark was immense, its black eye lifeless. Its mouth opened, and I was pulled under, swallowed by darkness. I had escaped the storm, only to enter a far more terrifying hell. My prison was alive, filled with the gurgling sounds of the shark's insides. The air was thick with salt and decay. I realized I was in the shark's stomach, a muscular chamber contracting around me. Panic threatened to consume me, but I forced myself to think. When the shark surfaced, I gulped precious air, my only lifeline. I caught tainted seawater in my hands to stave off thirst. Days and nights blurred together, exhaustion and hunger gnawing at me. The physical struggle was immense, but the battle in my mind was even greater. In the darkness, my mind became both enemy and ally. Despair whispered for me to give up, but hope fought back. I saw my children's faces, my wife's strength. They were waiting for me. I could not surrender. I was a father. I recited prayers, sang songs, listed the names of those I loved. I forced myself to move, to keep my blood flowing. My faith became a roaring fire, my shield against the horror. I prayed not for escape, but for strength to endure. In that living tomb I found a connection to something greater. I was not alone in the darkness. My spirit would remain free. Survival was more than breath or water. It was hope. And hope was my ultimate survival tool. After what felt like an endless eternity in suffocating darkness, something finally shifted. For so long I had been trapped in a world of silence and pressure, my senses dulled by fear and exhaustion. But now, a subtle change in the water's movement, a tremor in the darkness made my heart leap. The shark's movement suddenly grew frantic, its body convulsing with wild, violent energy. It was as if the creature itself sensed danger, or perhaps it was fighting for its own survival now. I realized with a surge of hope that the shark was being pulled upward, yanked toward the surface by some unseen force. It fought desperately, twisting and turning, but the pull was relentless. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a wild flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, rescue was near. I clung to that hope, refusing to let it slip away. I remembered the small fishing knife I still had, its handle slick in my trembling grip. It was my only tool, my last chance. With shaking hands I stabbed at the stomach wall, desperate to make my presence known. Each strike was a plea for help, a signal to the world outside that I was still alive. The flesh was thick and unyielding, but I refused to give up. Again and again I drove the blade forward, my arms burning with effort, my mind focused on survival. I screamed with all the strength I had left. I am here, I am alive! My voice was muffled, swallowed by the darkness, but I hoped someone, anyone, would hear me. The shark thrashed in agony, its pain echoing my own desperation. Every movement sent waves of fear and hope crashing through me. Suddenly, above the chaos, I heard muffled shouts, the groan of a winch, and the heavy thud of the shark hitting a solid surface. The realization hit me. They had caught it. I was so close to being found. Tears of relief streamed down my face, mixing with sweat and fear. For the first time, I truly believed I might survive. But my ordeal wasn't over yet. Anxiety gnawed at me. Time was running out, and I was still trapped inside. Would they realize I was inside? Would they cut the shark open in time to save me? Every second felt like an eternity. I stabbed and shouted, fighting for every precious second, refusing to give in. Then, suddenly, a sliver of light pierced the darkness. A cut from the outside, the light growing brighter with each passing moment. Hope flooding back into my soul. My rescue was at hand. I was about to step out of the darkness and into the world again, forever changed but alive. The outside world broke through, a blinding line of light. The stomach wall peeled open and fresh air rushed in. The fisherman stared in stunned silence as I emerged, covered in blood and filth. For a moment no one moved. Then they pulled me out, away from the carcass and into the light. The journey home was a blur. When we reached the village, the news had already spread. My family ran to me, and we collapsed into each other's arms. I was home. My story became a legend. But for me, it was a lesson. In the darkest place, hope and faith kept me alive. The human spirit is stronger than any prison. Hope can guide you through any storm, even from the belly of the beast.
What's something people don't know about stories? They never truly end. There's always a new adventure waiting for you. Just pick your next tale and I'll meet you there. Subscribe to the Story Circle and let me know which story I should tell next in the comments.